should stand for. So I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest with you.
What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Shalor back again with another video. Hey, we got to get into Stephen A. Smith running for president. Oh, this is such an awful idea. If you know anything about Stephen A. Smith, he's a sports commentator for ESPN, and he is a big-time grifter. He is wherever the money is and wherever the fame can be had. He's on a little press tour right now, running through the streets on every podcast and news outlet outside of ESPN, announcing that he is considering running for president. Now, if you know, Stephen A. Smith voted for Kamala Harris, which is crazy. But he says he only voted for Kamala Harris out of spite for Donald Trump. But every time you hear Stephen A. Smith talk, he's always talking about something he agrees policy-wise with Donald Trump, which he'll then switch it back to say, well, I don't like this because of his antics or his behavior, which lets me know he's an emotional man. You're not going to vote on policy and what's right, but you will vote on your emotion, which is crazy. You cannot trust a man like that to lead the nation. No way. He's a straight sheep in wolf's clothes. I wouldn't even call him a real Democrat because he doesn't really stand with any Democrat values. He's just against the right, I guess, so to speak, because he's in Disney. He works for ESPN. He wants to be trounced around in the media as a good guy. You can't be a good guy if you say you vote for Donald Trump. But I'm going to play the clip of him recently on a news outlet talking about running for president, and I'll come back with my commentary.
Bill Maher, I saw Steve Bannon was on with Bill Maher, and he was asked what Democrats he worries about, and the only name he mentioned as a Democrat he'd be worried about. So are you really thinking about running for president? Is this something you think?
Listen, I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me. I've had folks who are pundits come up to me. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others, that have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. I just signed a contract extension with ESPN. I am very, very
pretty
happy
good one too
with my day job. I'm very happy with my bosses. It's a pretty damn good one. Just right. It's a pretty damn good contract. I couldn't be happier. But here's the reality. People have walked up to me, including my own pastor, for crying out loud, who has said to me, you don't know what God has planned for you. At least show the respect to the people who believe in you, who respect you, who believe that you can make a difference in this country, to leave the door open for any possibilities 2 to 3 years down the line. And that's what I've decided to do. But again, whether it's Governor Westmore, who I know, or Governor Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, who I know, Andrew Cuomo, who I had the pleasure of interviewing, who's trying to get back in things and be the next mayor of New York, etc. I see a lot of people that obviously and clearly are more qualified than me. But in the same breath, when you think about what Trump is getting away with, when you think about what you brought up about Steve Bannon, who's trying to be slick because he's looking at a non-political individual like myself, looking at me as a populist. But you better be careful what you ask for, because some of the stuff that Trump and the right has been trying to get away with, like circumventing the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, talking about how there could be a third term. Excuse me, be careful what you wish for, because if any GOP member, if any Republican supports that, I don't want to hear a word out of their mouth ever again about the following the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. That's what they've been living off for years. And then you're talking about circumventing the 22nd Amendment, and you think that's cool? No way. That's not something that we should stand for. So I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest with you.
All right, guys. So you see Stephen A. Smith with the rhetoric, basically keeping the options open, saying that he may run for president if it's in, I guess, God's will, right? Man, that's funny, because you could never vote for someone, at least I could never vote for someone like Stephen A. Smith, who, I guess, says he has conservative values, but still will go against them to vote against his own values. I don't understand that. It's like he's going to vote for Kamala Harris, who stands for everything that I know he's not for. You know, he's the same guy who's always touting, stay off the weed, you know, getting on the black athletes all the time, which I agree with him on that. They're causing, they're putting their careers in harm. It's more acceptable now, but back in the day, they used to put their careers in harm just to smoke a little weed. And he was a big time person calling them out. And, you know, you got the transgenders in the sports and stuff like that. And I know he's against that. And he's going to speak to it in this next clip. Y'all take a look at this.
Tonight. So thanks for coming on. Good to meet you.
What's going on, Rob? How are you, man? Nice to meet you.
I'm hanging in there. I'm excited to talk to you. You've been a moderate voice of reason for this party as it's moved further and further to the left. And my first question to you is, what was the impetus for you to start doing that?
It just got a bit sickening, a bit to the extremes, the fringes. Yeah. You know, so many people talked about the MAGA right. I was like, what about the progressive left? What are we doing here? What are we paying attention to? Are we not paying attention to the type of stuff that's going on? Are folks talking about the economy? No. Are they looking at the border and seeing 12+ million people cross the border illegally and bringing that up? No. There's no problem at the border whatsoever. Everything was great. This is what we heard for 3.5 years. When you look at those kind of things, and then you're seeing people get suspended or lose jobs for, you know, echoing the wrong pronoun, and us having conversations about gender bathroom use and all of this other stuff, I'm like, it got a bit extreme and a bit ridiculous. You know, a lot of times, folks within the black community, we don't say this enough, but this is the absolute truth, Rob. A lot of us obviously vote Democratic, but we live very conservative lives. We come from very conservative households. Yeah. Our parents raised us in a certain way where you can't come into the home with that with such nonsense. When you're talking to your mother or your father, they ain't having it. Yet somehow, some way, inexplicably, specifically since 1964, I should say inexplicably since the civil rights legislation, you know, obviously they've had the Democratic vote for the Democratic Party has had the black vote for the vast majority of that period. Yeah. But in the end, looking at all of those things, I just felt that it became a bit crazy and, quite frankly, a bit unfair.
All right, guys. So you see Stephen A. Smith telling the truth about black people, their conservative values, and so on and so forth. If you can still say all of that, and you know the history of how the Democrats got a stronghold on the black community, and you still vote for the Democrats, he himself says he voted for the Democrats after all of this stuff. He just talked about the transgender bathrooms, which is that's just crazy in itself. And the pronouns and so on and so forth. He doesn't agree with any of that, and he knows they push it. Barack Obama pushed it. He pushed the transgenderism, or the transgenders going into the bathrooms, and most black people were still on board with that. With Obama, because he was quote unquote black. But how can you be, I think he's almost 60 years old, 55, 56 plus years old, and you still will stand up for the Democrat Party, you'll vote for Kamala Harris, and now you're saying you're running for president. What are you going to run on the Democrat ticket? You just spouted all of that, and the Democrats aren't for it. They want trannies or transgenders, excuse me. They want transgenders in the opposite bathrooms or same-sex bathrooms. They want all of this. They want the pronouns. They want the illegal migrants, which you just spoke about. But you still voted for Kamala Harris. Now you're saying that you're running for president, which is crazy. There is no way that we could trust Stephen A. Smith, because he'll say the right thing but do the opposite. That's just who he is. And I'm going to put a video up. I'll share this clip right here of Stephen A. Smith doing exactly what I'm saying the right thing, and then he'll speak with a forked tongue. He's going to say the opposite in the same breath. He'll do the same thing. He'll say one thing. He'll be for what's right or what he believes to be right, but then will critique and criticize it as if it's wrong just because it's Trump. And he'll be the perfect candidate to run on the Democrat ticket because he can speak very well. He can articulate himself, and he's very sharp. And he's a debater. He debates on ESPN every day. I don't think he'll run, but they are pushing him forward to be the guy. So it is what it is. But y'all check out this clip with him saying one thing and then pulling it back just to appease his Democrat overlords and the people he works with at Disney.
These tariffs, these tariff wars going on. And there are some people, particularly on the side of Trump, they are all in support of tariffs. Let me be the first to say this about Donald Trump. I support tariffs. I have no problem with it. I do believe that the United States has been paying too much money. We've been giving too much money out. You go to foreign countries, you see people, they talk about how you don't see American vehicles. You don't see American products nearly as much as you see other products from other nations. This is what they say. If that is true, then Trump is right. We are getting hosed, and something needs to be done about it. I am not averse to Donald Trump with tariffs. What I'm averse to is how he's handling it. I'm averse to the fact that you're going to go after everybody. I'm averse to the fact that you didn't anticipate that China would come back with 34% tariffs of their own, and in the process of doing so, would set up meetings with allies of the United States that are now threatening not to be allies because they had tariffs imposed on them by Trump. And now because of that, they're turning against the United States and to China. Now, only time will tell whether Trump's right. Only time will tell whether or not we're going to find ourselves in a disastrous situation, whether recession is in place right now, whether inflation is going to boom. Only time will tell, but it's a short time. I don't want to hear a year. I don't want to hear 2 years. We can't afford that. Why do I bring all of this up? Because all of this is the kind of stuff that made me say what I said yesterday at the National Association for Broadcasters convention.
All right, y'all. So you heard the clip. Now that's straight booty chatter. You're going to say you support the tariffs, but you're going to say on the other hand, Trump did not anticipate China coming back with their own tariffs. Newsflash. They already have tariffs on us. Of course they were going to come back and retaliate to do something. You already know that. That's not the point. But you see, he can never give a compliment to the right or say he agrees fully, and because he has to give criticism to make it seem like he's not on the side of the things that he actually agrees with, which he agrees with the Republicans. And it is what it is. But he can't because he's in conservative media. I mean, he's in liberal media, and you cannot. That is a big no-no. So Stephen A. Smith cannot be trusted. He'll do everything against the best interest. He's saying, that we can't wait 2 years and we don't know if we're going to be in a recession. We're already in a recession. When Joe Biden was in office, where were you saying this? Where? He was sending all our money to Ukraine. He was the same person trying to get the Supreme Court to get people out of their jobs if they didn't take the vaccine. Where were you saying that? He was harming the country. You already said that he's letting in all of the illegals, but you see he waited until after Trump was elected to then spout all of this. He was not saying any of this during the presidency, and that's how his presidency will go. He will be a lame duck if he were to be a president, and he would just do the marching orders of the Democrats. That's just what it would be. But y'all let me know what you think about Stephen A. saying he's considering running for president, and would you vote for him? I wouldn't say I hope. Everybody has the right to vote for whoever they want to vote for, but man, that's crazy. If you could trust somebody like that. One thing we can say about Trump is that Trump is Trump, and he doesn't have a big forked tongue. Sometimes he does get ahead of himself, and he does things that I do not agree with. A lot of people don't like his foreign policy that he has in this term with Iran and Israel and, you know, all throughout the Middle East. But he does a lot of good things here in the homeland. I do support the tariffs. It could hurt us for a little while, but it could be great. But we'll see. But y'all let me know in the comment sections what you think about the video. And Stephen A. Smith running for president. Y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I get back at y'all another. Peace.